Good morning, teacher, and hello everyone. I'm so grateful to present about the story which is The Happy Bird by Oscar Wilde. I'm from group 5. We have 5 members. There are Sanpekday, Sansinian, Pisopia, Mi Bansamat, and the last one, Ponspan. Here is our table of content. There are 4 sections, which is the first one is story summary, second, literary device, third, major conflict, fourth, hidden message. My name is Ibn Sambat. I'm present about part 1, which is story of summary. The Happy Prince is a beautiful statue of solid gold. It stands high below the city. It has blue sapphire for eyes and rubbers on the heel of the sword. One day a little swallow arrived in the city. He was on the way to Egypt to join his friend. He found the goddess statue for accommodation, but as he prepared to sleep, a drop of the water fell on his head. The statue was crying because he could see all the ugliness and misery of the city. The prince then told the story of a seamstress and her son. She cannot care for him since she must need the girl for the queen. The prince asked the swallow to take the ruby from his sword and give it to the poor mother. The swallow take it and bring it to the mother. The prince asked the swallow to take the spearing from his eye to give them to the poor writer and massacre crying on the street. The statue is now blind, and the swallow decided to stay with him and be his eye. The swallow told him about the children starving in the street while the rich dancing in their beautiful houses. The statue tells him to remove all his gold and give them to the poor. The statue now looked dull and grey. By now winter, the swallow knew he was close to death. Then it died at his feet. The statue keenly felt the loss of the swallow. The next day, the major and his councillor were walking by the statue. The major disliked the dull statue, ordered it to be brought down, and they made the statue, but they couldn't make it lit hard. God sent his angel to bring him to previous thing from the city, and the angel brought him the little heart and the dead bird. God is praised. He is eager to hear the singing of the swallow and praise from the happy prince. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mat, for your summary of the story. And now I am Sanpekday going to talk about the setting of the story. The setting of the story is divided into 4 parts. The first one is about the time and place, second is about the occupation and daily manner, and the third one is about the complication and rising action. The last one is about the climax of the story. First, let us talk about the time and place first. After reading the story, I have written out many lines that indicated the place and time that the story took in. Please take a look at the slide together. High above the city, the river, and the city in the winter, between the feet of the happy prince and last summer. All of the phrase and line are indicated the time and place that the happy prince story took in. And now for this point, it's about the occupation and daily manner. In this point, I only bring out the 2 characters of the story to talk. The first one is about the happy prince, and the second one is about the swallow. The happy prince, he is a statue after he died, but when he was alive, he was so perfect and happy. After that, when he turned into a statue, he saw the ugliness of the city and the sorrow of the townspeople, everything, and now he is not happy anymore after he died. And the next one is about swallow. Swallow is a bird, and he just want to travel and explore the world. He traveled in group of his friends, but got left out because he was in love with a female bird. And everything led him to meet the happy prince and doing good deeds together afterward. For the third point of the setting of the story, I'm going to talk about is the complication and resignation. There was so misery, but the Happy Prince couldn't do anything because after he died, he turned to statue, and after that, he met the swallow that became his messenger to help the people. And now we arrived at the last part of the setting of the story, the climax. After the jury that came from the statue of the Happy Prince ran out, its people thought that the statue is no longer beautiful. The swallow died because of the weather, and the statue of the Happy Prince is melted down by the mayor and the councillors people. The Happy Prince's late heart was thrown away by them. For this point, I'm going to talk about is about the literary device. A literary device is divided into 4 points. The first is about imagery, symbol and metaphor, irony, and symbolism. For this part, I'm responsible for 2 more points, which is imagery and metaphor. Let's just first talk about the imagery. The line is that his lips are as red as a pomegranate. In this line, we can imagine that his face is as red as a pomegranate as he cried, because the eye of a person cry always red. And now for the next sentences. Then the snow came. After the snow came the frost. The street looked as if they were made of silver. They were so bright into the street. Long icicles like crystal daggers hung down from the eaves of the house. Everybody went about first, and the little boys wore scarlet caps and skated all night. In this sentence or paragraph, we can imagine that the town is in the winter season and every house is covered in snow. We can imagine the children running outside their house, doing skates and everything, and the scene of the house that long cycle hung down from its rooftop, something like that. And the next is about the symbol and metaphor. In this part, I only bring out 2 sentences to talk about. The first is that he looked like an angel. It's a comparison. It means that he is very beautiful or handsome, like an angel. Next is about his hand are like with the leaves. This is a comparison of his hand size and shape to a winter leaf. It means that his hands are thin and weak. Thank you for your presentation, and this is the end of my point. Let's next part be presented by my teammate P. Sophia.
Thank you so much, Kakadai. Greeting everyone. My name is P. Sophia. I'm in charge of irony and symbolism in the Happy Prince story. So let's talk about the irony first. I will show 3 irony in the Happy Prince. The first one is the Happy Prince. The title mentioned that a prince had a happy life and had been a happy person before he died. But when he died, he was put in a pedestal and he could see the whole town from where he stood. He cried at night. This made the title ironic. And the second one is the guarded statue. It is ironic because it looks rich and pretty, but it actually guarded by gold, not made of gold. That's why they move the statue when it loses their shiny part. So now let's move to our last ironies. Is a little better than beggar. The mayor is given this statement when he finds out the happy statue without its embellishment. The value of a statue or a person is decided by its external beauty. When it was beautiful with pieces, it was valuable. As soon as the statue without its embellishment, the mayor moved it away and burned it down. He didn't see the innate beauty of the statue. Now let's move to my last part, symbolism. The swallow is represent loyalty and friendship as he remained to stay and have the prince fulfill his wishes till his last breath. Another one is the lit heart of the prince. It represents love and immorality as it does well and was placed with the dice swallow. And another one is the children. The children represent innocent and good people. The mayor and council member represent authority and repression. The old woman, the young writer, and the girl represent the poor section of society who suffer and strive hard to earn a living. Another one is Happy Prince. Happy Prince symbolizes happiness, the joyful life of the prince when he was alive. Last kiss. This could interpret that it symbolizes kiss of death. And the last one is tails by the swallow. They represent two different things. Firstly, the fact that he told his tale to the prince so that he got distracted from poverty and problems the town people had. And another one, it represents what the swallow gave up his journey to Egypt in order to stay and have the prince. That's all from my part.
Thank you, Sophia, for your presentation. Next, we have the major issues and the conflict in the story. Happy Prince, written by Oscar Wilde, illustrates the contrast between the royal family and normal citizen. Royal members always lived in the place where tea and sorrow were not allowed to enter. On the other hand, for normal citizens, faced countless hardships that the king didn't really know unless he died. This illustrated that poverty and inequality were the main issues in those years. Next, we have the conflicts and the solution. There are three conflicts in the Happy Prince. First, character versus self. Second, character versus character. And last but not least, character versus nature. First, we have the conflict between character versus self. The internal conflict happened when the prince felt guilty that when he was alive, he didn't realize that his people were suffering and living miserably. And when he was dead, he was motionless and couldn't do anything but seeing his people ugliness and hardship from distance. He said that when I was alive and I had human heart, I did not know what tears were, for I lived in the place of Sans Souci where sorrow is not allowed to enter. And the solution for this conflict that he solved the conflict by asking the swallow to pluck his ruby on his spot, the bright sapphire on his eye, and later all his golden piece cover on his statue to those who are suffering. The second conflict is character versus character. This internal conflict portrays when the swallow wanted to come back to the Egypt, but the Happy Prince insists him to bringing all his belongings to his miserable people. However, inside the swallow he missed all his friends and couldn't handle the coldness of the winter. Tonight I go to Egypt, the swallow said, and he was in high spirit at the prospect. When the moon rose, he flew back to the Happy Prince, and then the Happy Prince asked, "Have you any commission for Egypt?" Then the swallow started to cry. This conflict was solved when the swallow was no longer appealing to going to Egypt anymore, that he decided to stay with the prince until his last breath. Then both of them were taken by God to Garden of Paradise. The last conflict is human versus nature. The conflict was illustrated when the bird died of the coldness. The poor little swallow grew colder and colder, but he would not leave the prince. He loved him too well. He picked up the crumb outside the baker door where the baker was not looking, and he tried to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. But at last he knew that he was going to die. He had just strength to fly up to the prince's shoulder once more and murmur, "Goodbye, dear prince." And he said that, "Will you let me kiss your hand?" And the solution for this conflict was solved when the bird died. Next, I would like to give the floor to Suy to continue our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Supanat. Good morning again, teacher. I'm Suy who present on the hidden message and useful ideas. In the story of the Happy Prince, there are many good lessons that you should learn from. First is to see the world is to give yourself an opportunity, knowing the differences between outside and inside. In the story, the prince had been kept away from all sorrowful that made him know nothing how hard life the poor is. It is the same out to the people in our society. Some are doing nothing until one day they regret. However, it was too late, unlike the prince, which allowed him to fulfill his duty. Scott love and sacrifice is one of the most important lessons in this story. As the poor love of the prince toward his people, he sacrificed himself even he was just a stranger. So people need to value the happiness by helping others as the prince did, because it's not too late to give a hand to whom in need. Third, the real happiness is when you have a compassionate heart. As the poor love that can make you sacrifice your own benefits as much as joy to those who receive your kindness and charity. Even the prince, a small sacrifice couldn't wipe away all the tears of broken heart away. However, it made a big difference in someone's life, which gives the society of equality and joy. Additionally, a good company is a great teacher. Because of the company of the Happy Prince made the swallow impathetic, he initially reluctant to help the prince reach out the poor and destitute with the jump soon into the readiness and joy to lessen the misery and fly around. Last is the beauty that is of no use is no beauty, which means the outside look is not important as the inner. As same to the prince that have lost his beauty just to make his people life better. So at the point, people should learn to give up their selfishness. Because nowadays people only think of their own benefit. So I hope that the hidden message and useful idea in the Happy Prince could change your opinion in real life. Now it's come to end of our presentation. Thank you for listening and paying attention. If you have any question, please drop it in the message box.